Strand. Happy to have you here joining us on the morning. And we have deck lists available. All right, let's go ahead and bring them up.
Decklist.
Zoe Riederman commonly plays Living End. Let's see it. There it is. Living End is the choice once again. And really, why would you change things up when you're having a lot of success?
Yeah, Living End is definitely one of those decks on the 9 that we were talking about earlier. This looks pretty standard. I've actually seen some people experimenting with no copies of Grief, but I think Grief is too powerful in your best opening hand, so I definitely like the inclusion of Grief here.
Sure. Yeah, that would definitely be an alteration. I mean, I understand sometimes, especially when you're not looking at 7-card hands, that it can be difficult to get it going early, but really nice opener. All right. And so he's going to be playing against Caleb Spicer. Am I seeing this right? The wrong Tron deck?
That's what I see as well.
Yeah. All right.
If
So
we
let's
get
go
the
ahead and
deck
pop
list, we
that
do
up
have the
on
deck
screen
list.
if we get a chance. Yeah. Caleb Spicer with Eldrazi Tron. All right. So the other deck utilizing the Urza's lands, not the green Tron deck with the focused mana ramp, but the Eldrazi Tron deck, which is more or less just kind of hoping to draw the Tron lands, and if it doesn't, it'll get by anyway.
I'm guessing you're not a fan of the Eldrazi Tron.
Well, I am a fan. I put my modern deck for several years was green Tron, so not a fan. I'll tell you why I'm not a fan of Eldrazi Tron. Because every time they have Tron on turn 3, they just got lucky. Whereas every time Green Tron has Tron on turn 3, it's due to like clever deck building, execution of a plan, and
Right.
the overall charm and good humor of the player.
No, I gotcha.
Tron, they're just getting lucky every time. That was my impression anyway.
Yeah, they basically have 4 maps in a dream instead of the Sylvan Scryings and
Yeah,
all that
exactly.
kind of stuff. So,
They don't deserve
but
to have Tron on turn 3.
I do think that Chalice of the Void is actually in a pretty decent position right now. So, I mean,
Mhm.
we'll see if we can see that card in this matchup because this is definitely a matchup for that card.
All right. Well, here we go. Kicking off the event. Nerd Rage Gaming 10K is underway. Caleb Spicer on the play with, all right, not turn 3 Tron, but Urza Saga followed by preceded by Urza's Mind. Not bad, not bad. And Zoe Riederman, what do you have for us?
I think we got a Street Wraith. So usually with Street Wraith being cycle that you don't have to pay mana for, usually you want to save that one to last, but it looked like Zoe didn't have a Cascader, so we were trying to cycle the Street Wraith to try and find a Cascader to be able to use that 1 mana to cycle. Looks like we missed though.
All right. Well, certainly would be unusual for creatures not to rapidly find their way to the graveyard for the Living End deck. No black mana available at this point. And Caleb Spicer getting things going with an expedition map, searching up, I don't know, probably a Tron land. There's a lot of glare there. I guess it could have been an Eldrazi Temple.
Yeah, if Caleb has something like a Thought-Knot Seer, maybe they would want to go grab the temple, but maybe it was a temple. Let's see if we have that Thought-Knot Seer. And I was looking at Caleb's deck list to see what other main deck. It looks like Caleb has 2 copies of Relic of Progenitus main deck, so that's going to be one that we can find off of the Urza Saga. So Zoe's got to be cognizant of that.
Yeah, well, if Relic of Progenitus is going to be coming into play, and if Zoe is aware that that's a distinct possibility, then she needs to not waste any time here and get this Living End off right away, even if it's not a huge one.
Yeah, even just a Waker or a Street Wraith, you definitely want to just fire it off here.
And really, realistically, that might be enough to take down the game. I mean, Caleb Spicer, nothing on the board yet, so no Thought-Knot Seer, waiting.
All right, see if you have a Violent Outburst. Because Caleb's going to make some mana here. It looks like Zoe's thinking. Yeah, it looks like she is going to go ahead and fire that off.
Yeah. This would be this one more Urza Saga. If you're not up on the competitive aspects of the game and really used to playing in events, once this Saga tutors, whatever Caleb fetches is in play. Zoe can't respond with, say, a Living End off of a Violent Outburst after Caleb makes the choice of Relic. It's too late at that point. So
right,
she's going to fire this off now. Presumably, we shall see.
Yeah,
And
and like you said, I mean, it's still going to be 10 power here, and the Eldrazi deck isn't that good at beating a 7/7 creature.
right.
So this 7/7 plus the Street Wraith might be able to be blocked, but
Wow. Well, okay. Warping Whale has said something about
oh,
that. Now, this is a Warping Whale. We'll see if we can pop that up. That is a very cool card, a modal card. One of the cards counter a sorcery. Well, Living End, despite it being cast during Caleb Spicer's upkeep here,
can't do that. I
is in
think
fact a
Caleb is trying
sorcery.
to get a chalice off of the saga, but you can't do that.
Right. All right. And yeah, Zoe is aware of that, even if Caleb is not. So he'll take a read on the card and confirm that's correct. So you see a Warping Whale there. Let's go ahead and ditch that for the moment and bring up Urza Saga. And Zoe's explaining things, but the players will end up having to call a judge to have this changed. As you can see there, as Devin pointed out, search your library for mana cost 0 or 1. And
Yeah,
now,
0 or 1. Even though Chalice, technically you don't like when you're playing Chalice for 0, you can pay it for 0 mana, but it doesn't have a mana value or mana cost 0. It has mana cost X.
right. Yeah. And that's honestly, if you're going to make a rules error, that one's pretty understandable.
Yeah, because you always play it for 0 mana, so.
Exactly. Yeah. And when it's on the board, everyone knows that. When it's on the board, its mana cost is 0, but even so, its mana value is not. So there is the relic. And
that one's not bad though,
yeah. No, this is pretty solid for Caleb Spicer. I mean, whatever that Warping Whale countering the first Living End was so huge. And now, I mean, if Caleb keeps mana open for the rest of this game, Zoe's got
a second relic. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Zoe's got some work to do here. This is not going to be easy.
Yeah, I was gonna say if Zoe had a Force of Negation, we could have fought over the Warping Whale, but no Force of Negation means that Warping Whale was gonna resolve, and yeah, now we got 2 relics in play. I don't really think. I mean, let me pull up Zoe's deck list. I don't think that they usually have too many outs to main deck relic. They got 2 Otawaras, no Besejus. Yeah, that's pretty much it. The Skyturtle, or the turtle can only bounce creatures. So yeah, just 2 Otawaras. So not really a ton of outs for Zoe here.
Yeah, and so here comes a Shardless Agent, which is going to result in one of these relics being exiled to clean the graveyard. Now, my impression has frequently been that these decks play 3 copies of Living End. Let's take a quick check here because Zoe's playing 3, and I think one was spilled over by the Waker of Waves on turn 2. So I'm not sure there's any left in the deck.
Ooh, very, very smart play by Zoe here. At least we're going to get something out of it. So what you saw there was Shardless into Living End. Caleb responded, popped the Relic, and then after the Relic pop resolved, still with the Living on the stack, so we had a Cycler. So very, very heads-up play by Zoe there.
Yeah, it's important to get something on the board, as this may be all there is. And, well, talked about Eldrazi Tron struggling against just a mere 7/7. That a 3/3 and a 2/2 is not quite that.
No, not quite.
And
And Caleb also has the Eldrazi Temple, so he can just deploy a Thought-Knots here if he finds one.
Yeah. And even though, in theory, these Living End decks can win just by hard casting their creatures, have you even seen that happen? I have not.
It's kind of a rare myth, I think, is more so what it is. I've seen it a couple of times. Curator of Mysteries, I will say, is probably the most threatening card. 4 mana for a 4/4 flyer. That's actually a good stat. But the rest of the creatures, 7 mana, 7/7, 4 mana, 3/3. There's not a lot else to love there.
Right. So Zoe's got to be hoping a couple of shots can get in here for 5, soften Caleb up a little bit. But, well, let's see. Now, Caleb doesn't actually need to keep Relic mana open anymore, but that may not be something that he is aware of, although in this case he does tap out. So yeah, he is perhaps realizing that, okay, Zoe doesn't have another Living End. So he doesn't actually need to waste the mana.
I wonder, so you saw Zoe went Force Pitch Force there. So either that means she had the opportunity to force on the turn the warping wheel was cast, or she drew back-to-back force of negations after, which is probably more likely because I would imagine if she could have fought over the warping wheel, she would have.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you there. All right. So, well, I mean, Caleb takes a shot of 5. Another Shardless Agent comes down. Cascades and misses. Caleb will get to look at Zoe's deck. Although,
yeah, so as you said, no more living ends.
Right. And Caleb, with the knowledge that mana doesn't need to be left over for Relic, probably, and you can see very quickly that went through Zoe's deck, probably a player who knows what's going on in the format, doesn't need to examine too many details of Zoe's deck, probably knows most of it already. But 7 damage on the board here, and Caleb, I mean, almost any creature in his deck is going to be good here, but he does need something.
There's something.
Yeah, barely. I mean, Meta Reshaper is certainly not an all-star. In fact,
it counts.
Maybe the laughing stock of the Eldrazi group. But
hey, it's not bad here. Trades for any creature in play, gets a little bit of value on the way out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just Caleb is just looking for stuff to kind of, like you said, just kind of buy some time, just trade off for these random creatures in play. So we'll definitely see a block on the Architects. You saw the Karn get forced, so that was his big haymaker, trying to find another threat. Might just cycle the Relic here, which I think is probably fine because there's no more living ends, so
sure.
You can probably just kind of cycle that one too.
Okay, Thought Seer off the Meta Reshaper. That's a good one. And here's another Shardless Agent. Well, okay. This Curator of Mysteries would have been the winner, like you said. Shardless Agent beat down. It's going to be rough.
Yeah, if Zoe had cast a Curator last turn, could have got in for 4 here, and then put Caleb maybe on a 2-turn clock. Also, Caleb's really only good answer to Curator is Dismember, which he has to pay 4 life for anyways. So, yeah, if Curator came down, I could see Zoe maybe having a chance, but we're running out of turns for that.
Yeah, and a Walking Ballista for 1.
I think that was a Waker of Waves. I think it was a blue card. Now, we did see Zoe had an Otawara, so we could see bounce the Thought-Knot Seer, draw a card, which looks like we're going to do that.
All right.
Just try to get something going.
Yeah. And 6 across, Walking Ballista chump blocks. Okay, Zoe takes 1. That's certainly not relevant. And
yeah, Caleb down to 7, but we can just redeploy the Thought-Knots here. I guess, if Zoe has the second Otawara, we could maybe see something here.
Yeah, or a Skyturtle. I mean, there are or even a Violent Outburst to push through a little bit of extra damage. That's also possible. Striped Riverwinder, Grief, Violent Outburst. Okay, not a ton of help there at the moment.
I just take Outburst, right?
I think so. Trick. I think so. The Striped Riverwinder is just a new, unless you're just worried about a flyer, and so you take the Riverwinder. But Outburst is the choice.
I think Riverwinder is the 5/5 hexproof. I don't think anyone is flying. Yeah.
No, I meant it's a draw too. You can be cycled and draw into
sure.
A flyer potentially.
I gotcha.
All right, cycle Riverwinder. Skyturtle would be good. Like you were saying, Otawara would be good, although that requires more mana.
So I think that was another Outburst.
Okay, well, that's...
So I wonder from Zoe's perspective, do you just attack with everything, Outburst, put Caleb to 1, and then if Caleb has no creature, you just attack with 2 Shardlesses into the Thought-Knot, and that's lethal?
That has potential. Here's a Grief to reveal Smasher, Dismember, and another Thought-Knot Seer.
2 creatures. Yeah. 2 creatures. That's not what Zoe wanted to see, especially... You could even see, so if Zoe does take the line of attack with everything, Violent Outburst, you might even see we're going to take the Dismember. Okay.
And is there the second land from the bottom for Caleb? That's actually a swamp. So that Dismember actually isn't going to cost the full 4 life.
Oh, right. That's why we took the Dismember. Okay. That makes more sense. I missed the swamp.
Yeah. All right. So 4 damage comes through here. Caleb drops to 1?
Should be 1, yep.
Oh, because the Violent Outburst was cast. Yeah, sorry. Missed that. All right. So, yeah, 1 life. I mean, it doesn't get more precarious than that, but this is a pretty safe 1 life. There's not going to be any burn out of Zoe's deck. A flyer is probably going to be required here. Or
Well, I
another
think what
bounce
Zoe,
spell.
yeah, that's what Zoe's trying to set up, right? Ooh, I think that is that Tron.
No, I don't believe so. I think that's the second
No,
mine.
2 mines. Okay. So I think what Zoe was trying to set up here is Caleb, get to a position where Caleb's at 1, rip a bounce spell, bounce attack with both creatures.
Yeah.
It's not look like we found a bounce spell though.
And Caleb, I mean, it's probably going to be a little while before Caleb is confident enough to attack here. Well, okay, if 2 creatures are coming down here, then maybe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, another Ballista. All right,
You
so
can
I
even
think
attack with 2 here, right?
yeah, I think
Probably.
so. And it looks like Caleb is going to push for 9.
Super,
Maybe.
super safe. Like if Zoe double blocks, you just Ballista kill one of the Shardlesses, so you can't even really double block. Yeah, Zoe just takes it. But now bounce spell's not good enough because you can, if you bounce the Thought Knot, you just go block and ping with the blocking Ballista. And if you bounce the Ballista, then he just goes ping and then block the other Shardless. So
Yep. All right. And Caleb Spicer will take down game 1 on the back of, well, the variety of Eldrazi creatures, but really the Relic of Progenitus and the Warping Wail played a huge role in that game.
right, the sequence of Zoe went for, and you see, the thing is, I don't remember. I believe that we left up the Warping Wheel the entire time because I think, if I recall correctly, I don't even think we made a construct. Very, very heads up play by Caleb there to not make a construct because if he goes end of turn make a construct, Zoe can just living end right there while the Warping Wheel is not available. So very heads up play and very, very well navigated by Caleb.
Yeah. All right. So I guess we have a moment here. We can pop the deck list back up and see what may change before game 2. Zoe Riederman down a game here, looking for artifact-based removal, colorless creatures. The creatures, I think it's really the permanent's going to prevent her functioning that's going to matter more so. Like Reality Smasher, that's not going to win a race against Living End anyway. So what do we have here?
So against Eldrazi Tron, I'm looking at probably Subtlety for Karn. I'm looking at Force of Vigor for Relic / Chalice / Urza Saga, and then I'm looking at Besieger. I think those are pretty much all slam dunks.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Foundation Breaker may make its way in as well. And if we look at Caleb's side of things, now this is going to be a fairly limited sideboarding, it being a deck with wish capability. In fact, let's see if anything at all is going to be coming in.
I'm looking at no changes.
This is, in fact, a full wish board.
There's one Emrakul, but I don't think you want the Emrakul in this matchup.
No, I suppose not. Maybe you could discard the hand size on turn 1. You just skip your land drop, throw it in the graveyard. Probably not. Okay, so, well.
The beauty of playing Karn decks.
Yeah, seriously. So 2 Warping Whales, and you said 2 Relics. Yes, indeed, 2 Relics, but the Urza Sagas can find those, as we saw in game 1 after a bit of a false start on that one. Karn's Scion of Urza in the deck as well. So a couple Singleton Planeswalkers, Ugin and Karn.
Yeah, you usually don't see Karn Scion of Urza too much, but I imagine with the format being centered around the 4-color and Murktide decks, that one's probably good at just making some big dudes, right?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And Ugin the Ineffable, a lot of times just going to be making creatures also. Okay, so, and it just, 1 Ugin the Ineffable, 1 Ugin the Spirit Dragon. Now, do you really just want 1 Ugin Spirit Dragon? I mean, I remember years that passed, some Eldrazi Tron decks actually played a Karn Liberated, because like if you're going to get lucky and draw Tron, you might as well have the best payoff. But we don't see that here, but we do see Ugin the Spirit Dragon, which would be, if the game lasts long enough and Caleb draws it, would be absolutely fantastic in this matchup.
Yeah, if Caleb can set up Tron on curve or even on turn 4 after a living in, you just slam the Ugin, hope so he doesn't have the force negation, and then just get rid of it all. Yeah, that one's pretty good. Also better than All Is Dust because it exiles, so with something like All Is Dust, you just put them in the graveyard for another living end. So yeah, Ugin would be pretty good if Caleb can get to that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think just in terms of the matchup, we saw game 1, Zoe didn't have a ton of outs to that Relic of Progenitus, so I think game one with Caleb having Chalice plus Warping Wail plus Relic plus Saga, I think Caleb is ahead game one. But as you saw Zoe's sideboard, Zoe has a lot of answers post-board, so I think the matchup dynamic changes a lot in the post-board games.
Yeah, well, that's going to be necessary for Zoe Riederman fans, as she needs to pick up 2 games in a row here. Certainly capable of doing that. Let's see how it plays out. Zoe should be going first this game. This is a match. So there's some matchups where you can probably hold off on Grief for a turn or two and let your opponent draw into the important cards. Here, it's probably got to go on turn 1 if it's in hand, because Chalice and Relic are just so cheap.
Right. Yeah, you definitely just want to deploy it early. Now, here's the one thing about deploying this specifically right now is Force of Vigor. So for Caleb, if you're looking to expose yourself less to force, and we do actually have it. So if Caleb didn't play the Chalice there, because you don't really need to play the Chalice first, you wouldn't get 2 for 1 off the force, because Zoe might be interested in firing it off on the map, or probably saving it. But yeah, that's a blowout basically.
No, you're absolutely right about that. Whereas Zoe would need to preemptively play Grief because Caleb's cards are so cheap. Zoe is not going to interact with Chalice until turn 3 at the earliest, so Caleb doesn't have to throw it on the board instantaneously yet and gets punished for it here. 2 Tron pieces, though. We'll see if that's building towards 7 mana next turn. Certainly, Zoe would like to prefer not to see that.
Yeah, definitely something where you go back and you think about just what could have done differently. And yeah, because you don't need to deploy the Chalice super early. Now obviously the argument is, well, do I want to lose it to Grief? So it's kind of tough, but it's possible Zoe would have just griefed on turn 1 anyways, so it's hard to say.
Yeah. All right, building into turn 3 here. Zoe, without cycling, did spend Force of Vigor, which depletes the resources a little bit. So Caleb in no real danger at this point. And Otawara hits the board, which you think Caleb can conclude that Zoe doesn't have another land with Otawara coming down at this point?
Probably, because that's one you usually would want to hold off on, especially if you're worried about something like a Chalice the Void. But I'm assuming that Zoe's probably holding up. You're probably going to go for an upkeep Outburst. I think Caleb went to draw his card, and Zoe may have pointed out that she had effects in upkeep without. So we're gonna get a judge call on that one. See, should be not too bad of a fix, but we'll see what happens.
Right. So I may have been distracted by the Force of Vigor. I didn't realize there were many creatures in Zoe's graveyard yet to even be worth bringing out, but perhaps there are.
I think I remember a Street Wraith and potentially one other Cycler.
Okay.
If I recall correctly.
In game 1, we were talking about 2 creatures sounding fairly scary, so certainly that conceivably would be enough.
Looks like we do have the Outburst.
All right.
And Zoe wants to upkeep it for a couple of reasons. One, you want to give Caleb less draws at finding that Warping Wail. And you don't want to do it on your turn because Force of Negation is turned on your opponent's turn.
Absolutely. And also, if Caleb does have Urza's power plant to go with the other 2, Zoe would certainly prefer that the mana is tapped now so that it's not as powerful turn as would be otherwise. So here's the Living End. Looks like Street Wraith and Architects of Will.
Yep, so 2 creatures. Not big creatures, but 2 creatures nonetheless.
All right, I understand now why all this hand waving is going on, is because if Zoe wants to target Caleb with Architects of Will, Caleb, knowing the top card of his deck that he was drawing for the turn, could actually have. I mean, that's information that didn't seem like it was going to be relevant because he was going to draw the card immediately, but now may not be the case.
Right, yeah, because obviously if Zoe wants to rearrange the top 3 cards of Caleb's library where he's not drawing that card that he looked at this turn, well, now he has more information about what's below it. So we're going to maybe get a judge in to see exactly how it resolves. Now, I would assume that because there's no other known information, it's just a simple shuffle. I don't really, I'm not 100% an expert on this, but that would kind of be where I would look at.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. That's that's a very uninvasive fix that I mean, it's tough because I don't know. I think you can just force a shuffle here without actually assigning a penalty because Caleb, I mean, you could say on one side that Caleb looks at extra cards and he deserves a warning, but I mean, drawing a card for your turn is a pretty natural thing to do and doesn't seem to be worthy of a penalty when sure Zoe is going to stop him, but he may not have been aware of that. So just a simple shuffle and then move on from there seems fine. But the intricacies of judging, there are a lot of factors that play into how fixes are made, and we see now the players are probably just waiting for a judge to make up a decision.
Yeah, it looks like they're
Yeah.
having a conversation there. So
Mhm.
hopefully we'll get a resolution soon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it looks
there's
like
the
a simple
shuffle.
shuffle. There we go.
In the meantime, while we're getting this straightened out, we'll just kind of remind you where we're at. This is Nerd Rage Gaming. Thanks for being here. This is a Modern 10K. We're in round 1. We'll be with you all weekend long. Modern today, Modern semifinals and finals tomorrow morning, followed by the Legacy 5K, probably picking up in round 2 and moving on for the rest of the day. Becky Bell will be here later this afternoon. Julian Knob will be here tomorrow morning for the first few rounds of Legacy. And well, okay, yeah. So once all this is done, it looks like we're gonna have 6 power on the board for Zoe, and Caleb moving into his 3rd turn here. Not under a ton of pressure, but it
Get
is
a little
relevant.
peek and see what's on top.
Mm-hmm.
It's I think Smasher, Karn, Blasphone. So Zoe's going to put the Blasphone on top, and that's kind of just playing around Caleb just having the 3rd Tron land, so she doesn't want to give him a payoff if he does have the 3rd Tron land. We got a Thought Knot, which does block our 3/3s.
Yep, well, that's unfortunate. That random swamp in Caleb's deck to make Dismember cheaper actually would matter now, as Street Wraith does have Swamp Walk.
Oh, we're going to Subtlety, okay. Oh yeah, the Street Wraith having Swamp Walk. I never thought that would actually come up because Caleb has 2 swamps in his deck. That's hilarious.
All right,
Interesting. Caleb goes for a bottom. Now, that tells me that he probably just has another one, or maybe his hand is just all loaded with threats and no more land drops, and he doesn't want to get clogged up, and he already has a play lined up for next turn.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what Caleb deploys here, but okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Well, maybe he just is hungry for the information that Zoe has because Zoe already knows the top card of his deck. He just wants to. He doesn't think it's fair. He wants to draw to see what it is, also see what she knows. So he just bought him so he can see a fresh card. But yeah, another thought on Seer. Takes a violent outburst, leaving another copy in hand. And okay, here's an attack, which
Yeah, we're gonna block, and I wonder if you. I mean, I guess you could just not block, right? Take 6.
you could
Go to 8.
you block here. Okay, Street Wraith just goes down. Yep, 3M comes across.
I wonder if Zoe just wanted to cast the Violent Outburst. Okay, we're going to post. Okay, yeah, this makes more sense. You just let the Street Wraith die. This essentially accomplishes the same thing. Okay, yeah, this makes more sense. Do it post combat.
All right.
So yeah, I don't think there was another creature cycled in the meantime, right? I think it's just the Street Wraith. Oh, the Subtlety. Right, okay.
Okay. So the Architects will go down. So Zoe will exchange 3 damage and a 3/3 for a 3/3 flyer. Not terrible in this scenario. So now 1 evasive creature, which is what she was missing last game, and potentially a second one if Caleb would have the misfortune of actually drawing the swamp here.
Go Smasher on defense. So now Zoe is looking at a 4-turn clock. This would be a huge turn for Curator of Mysteries. Huge turn for that card. It's like we don't have it. So we still got Caleb on a 3-turn clock. Now, again, Caleb didn't play a land last turn, so definitely just has pretty much all threats in hand. And now we feel confident in attacking. That's a little dicey if Zoe draws a bounce spell, because then you go bounce the Thought-Knot Seer attack for 6, and then the Subtlety's lethal.
Right. Okay.
But I guess you are technically winning the race here, right? With the Smasher. I guess you can attack with both. So you go attack with Smasher, Zoe goes to 7. 7, and then no, actually, you're still losing the race, so we need a little bit of help here for Caleb.
Well, he's found Karn Scion, which isn't going to help, and he's found another Reality Smasher, and that's going to make a difference.
Yeah, because this forces a chump block, which means Zoe goes to 2, and then I don't really know. I mean, I guess if we draw a Cascade spell, right? Cascade spell will clean up the board. But then Caleb would get back the Thought-Knot here. I think that's the only creature in his graveyard, but yeah, that'll do it.
Wow, okay, so Caleb Spicer and Eldrazi Tron will defeat Zoe Riederman in round 1. Living End just kind of, I mean, not every game goes according to plan. That game, there wasn't really, well, there was some hate, but it was dispatched without too much difficulty, but then just had a little trouble keeping up. And Reality Smasher, I mean, whatever era we're living in, Reality Smasher is just a big creature, and it hits hard.
Yeah, also, pretty hard to kill. There's not, doesn't die to stuff like Lightning Bolt, Fatal Push. Does die to Unholy Heat, Solitude, but yeah, just a very, very, like I said, I think that the Eldrazi Tron player was definitely ahead in game 1, and then Zoe maybe stumbled a little bit in game 2. We saw the Force of Vigor, but we didn't really capitalize on the Force of Vigor, so you didn't see the typical Living End of like cycle on turn 1, double cycle on turn 2, Street Wraith plus Living End, put 20 power into play. Right. Zoe had to go for small Living Ends, and because of that, Caleb was kind of easily able to overcome that.
Yeah. Okay, we do have a backup match, so let's go ahead and get that going. Get 2 matches in for you this round. I believe we're going to see Izzet Murktide versus, well, my readout says Mono Black Boggles. Yeah, I don't think that's correct.
Mine does too. Don't think Mono Black Boggles is correct.
Daniel Wharton versus Noah Huizinga here. We have Izzet Murktide against Indomitable Creativity. Okay, so another person having their fun with the self-submitted deck list names. We really got to get Melee to dispatch that option.
It would have been funnier if we just went with the bit and had the person who was doing who was putting the names up just put Mono Black Boggles there.
I mean, yeah. What you talk about this, but what happens when these kinds of things happens is I get confused and then I look stupid. And sure, chat may enjoy that, but it gets old eventually, I think.
Depends on who you ask, right?
Yeah, right. All right, so Shredder in play here for the first time this weekend for Daniel Wharton. I'm sure we'll see plenty more of them, as that card is maybe the most common card in the format that's not in the 4-color decks. And Noah Huizinga, what do we got?
To be honest with you, I'm kind of surprised that the 4-color decks haven't tried to play that card, because they have, the Furies and the Ephemerates and...
Yeah, and they certainly are casting multiple spells a turn once they get going. Okay, so Indomitable Creativity, what we're going to be looking at here is trying to put tokens into play and then tutoring up. Let's go and take a look. Is it an Archon version?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So Archon of Cruelty is going to be the payoff in this list for Noah Huizinga. And, I mean, that's a good way to get paid off. Archon of Cruelty is a pretty impressive card.
Yeah, and we see a Spell Pierce on an iteration here. That's pretty good, because I don't believe Daniel has a land. I don't think so.
You're right.
And just going to say, one card that I've been really impressed with in these creativity decks is Fable of the Mirror Breaker. It just does so much. It creates a token. Then the token creates an artifact token, which doesn't die to removal spells when you're going through creativity. It digs you into creativity. It discards excess copies of Archon. It just does everything for this deck, all in one small little package. It's such a good card for this deck.
Yeah, no, it really does fit in well, and it fits nicely into the curve. So this list, actually looking at it a little bit here, yeah, we have 4 Indomitable Creativity, and there is 1 Transmogrify on top of that. So there is a 5th Enabler. And okay.
Yeah, I think Nassif's been playing a decent amount of this deck online, and I believe he's been playing somewhere between 1 and 2 copies of Transmogrify. He just felt like the creativities weren't quite enough, and he wanted more copies of that. So,
right. And Ledger Shredder stuck at 1-3 at the moment, not putting up much of a threat. Although Daniel's done a fair amount of damage to himself, as tends to happen in this format.
Yeah, that Spell Pierce was a massive beating for Daniel, because he didn't have a land. So basically just not only got time walked, but also just like Didn't get to play his third land. Didn't get to trigger the Shredder. It's just that was a rough one for Daniel.
All right, that's a Dwarven Mine, I believe, coming in there. So with Stomping Ground, Steam Vents, and Ketri Triome, a token is created.
Now, Noah does have a couple of options here. If he has creativity, we could just go for X equals 2. We're going to go for X equals 1. Okay, that's going to get Spell Pierce. So I was going to say, you can go for 2 if you sack the treasure and target both of your creatures. You can go for 1 if you target the treasure to play around Lightning Bolt. There's a couple of different things, but targeting the crab, and then we'll just get Spell Pierce. So.
Yeah, all right. So Daniel, hand full of cards, as mana is not permitting many of them to be cast at once, but yeah, stays in the game. As I mean, Indomitable Creativity for 1. Is that enough to put this matchup away in game 1? I would think
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there is Unholy Heat, so if Daniel does have Delirium, we can kill the one Archon of Cruelty, but sometimes the trigger is just enough to get the job done by itself. Kill the Shredder, drain, draw a card, get closer to another creativity. So, yeah, I think for the most part, 1 is probably fine. Now, when you get later into the game, maybe that's different. When you combine, like maybe there's a Murktide region in play, you do it for 1, you sack the Shredder, keep the Murktide. But at this current board state, I think doing it for 1 would certainly be lethal.
Yeah. Okay, Daniel Wharton, land number 3 found. It's going to cost a couple life points. I'm sure he's happily willing to pay that cost.
Late to the party, but better late than never.
Indeed. And Noah Huizinga, despite having a whole pile of permanents, really not putting much pressure on right now.
Right, yeah. Now, we do have the active Fable, so, if we do find... I'm going to take a look at Noah's deck list. I'm trying to think. I mean, I guess, yeah, there's no other creatures but the Archons. So, yeah, that's another thing, too, is once the Archon is in play, you could do even just X equals 1. You can start copying with the Fable, with the reflection, so that's kind of cool, too.
Okay, so Ledger
I
Shredder
can't
goes
tell...
down.
That token, is that a clue or a treasure? I think it's a clue.
All right. Fable is going to go down to the Unholy. I believe it is a clue on the right, if that's the one you're looking at. Or on the top, I mean.
Okay.
Wow.
Decent turn for Daniel there.
Well, yeah. Yeah, lots of action. Here is
What did I
the
miss?
Archon after a counter battle. And
Oh, no, I had a Spell Pierce. That's what I
yeah.
missed. Okay.
Yeah. So Archon is in play.
And we gotta do a Delirium check.
Daniel doesn't have a creature, so it's not as punishing as it would be sometimes, but it's still bad.
Yeah, drain 3, draw a card. Make you discard a card. Okay, the Bauble probably gives us Delirium, right? Instant creature, land, sorcery. Yeah, we should have Delirium.
Yeah, I actually don't know that we had the land, but the Bauble will give it to us because of the artifact and the Shredder that has died. So, yeah, there is no Unholy available, and this Archon's going to get to attack.
Yeah, that's usually a bad sign when Archon's turning sideways.
Yeah, no, it's... yeah, your life total starts dropping fairly rapidly in these scenarios. As you can see there,
and that'll do it.
Down to 3, and it's like, yeah, I'm not coming back from this. Stupid Arcana Cruelty. Why can't you just have a
trigger
combo to kill me or something? All right, so Indomitable Creativity takes down game 1, getting around a little bit of counter magic, get a little bit of interaction back. Let's go ahead and bring up the deck list if we have them for this.
That was a sweet game too, because both players got some really nice usage out of Spell Pierce.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not something that always happens. You can see there Daniel Wharton with 2 copies of Spell Pierce, 4 counter spells, and 3 Archmage's Charms. So there's definitely interaction here for the Indomitable Creativity.
Right, yeah. If we're looking at the sideboard, we got some Flusterstorms, probably a couple Mystical Disputes. I've heard people say they don't like explosives in this matchup. Not sure if you have an opinion on that, but pretty much those cards and the Blood Moons as well.
Yeah, I mean, so explosives. What we're really thinking is this is kind of a counter for Indomitable Creativity because almost everything you're going to be targeting does cost 0 mana value at least. But we'll leave that to Daniel Wharton to figure out. He certainly doesn't need it. You're pointing out there's plenty of interaction otherwise, but would be reasonable. All right, so Noah Huizinga's Indomitable Creativity deck that is up a game. Let's take a look.
Sideboard action, we got some Veils, Flusterstorms, Disputes, and I think that's probably about it, but lots and lots of counter magic, so.
Yeah, Wail is such an all-star. Anytime
It really is.
you can get it to work. And this deck, I mean, this deck may be in on Indomitable Creativity, but this deck can grind somewhat. Wrenn and Six and Fable the Mirror Breaker. These are game cards that can, and even Adjacent Mind Sculptor. This deck can, have game over the longer term. All right, let's go ahead and roll game 2.
Yeah, Prismari Command 2 to help churn through some excess cards. Deck does play a long game pretty nicely.
Yeah. Daniel Wharton on the play, but down a card on the mulligan.
Yeah, and this is, as we saw game 1, both players, like I said, both players got to utilize Spell Pierce very effectively, and that's going to come up a lot because this matchup, especially the Murktide deck as well, is just all about mana efficiency. And the cards in Noah's decks are inherently sometimes a little bit clunky. We're trying to play 2-drops and 3-drops and 4-drops. So, but then if you get to that turn where you have like 3-drop plus a mana up, it's really hard for Daniel to be able to go, pay, like counterspell plus pay for Spell Pierce or something. So
right. Okay, so looks like 6 will work for Daniel. So a real game here, not crippled. Do we have an opener? We do. Okay, Ragavan on the board.
Turn 1 monkey. See if we got an answer. Ooh, the best answer.
Okay. The best answer is
Hard evidence.
It's a stupid 0-3. Oh, that's just infuriating.
Oh man. 2 game objects too for the creativity. This card is quite good against an opposing turn 1 Ragavan, but just also very good in the creativity deck as well.
Okay, here is a bolt to get. I mean, this is certainly not the best bolt ever, but hey, if it gets a creativity out of existence, that's probably a good deal.
Yeah, Daniel will take that. Now we're hitting with Ragavan. We're down 1 creativity, so maybe a little bit less he has to worry about. We're holding up counterspell / spell pierce / all that stuff. So definitely a good start for Daniel.
Okay, consider in turn takes counterspell mana down, but pretty safe on that. Murktide goes to the bin.
Murktide.
Yeah. Just defend this Ragavan. Let it do all the work. I mean, you don't need really to draw Murktides when you're just going to download creativity off your opponent's deck on your treasures and get your own, right?
Yeah, but what if you creativity the treasure and hit a Ragavan? Then it's
well, I mean,
exactly
then you'd look foolish. So just don't do that. And you can look at the top card with Mishra's Bauble. So I mean, you can at least have some idea what's coming.
You can bauble yourself. I see. Bauble yourself to take a peek for the creativity. I gotcha.
That's right.
Now we're talking.
You got to plan ahead. All right, a couple treasures on the board here for Daniel. Unlocking probably anything in the deck he wants to cast, but the mana is going to stay available.
Yeah, we didn't see a turn 2 Wrenn and Six from Noah. That would have been a beating. Now, Daniel has the counterspell, but you would have at least forced it out of him. So.
It's probably some bit of a dance that goes on in these creativity decks with the clue tokens. You want to hold artifacts and permanents on the board, but cashing it for cards is worthwhile too.
Right. Yeah, so definitely have a 3-drop. I was going to say, because Noah didn't have a 2-drop, definitely has a 3-drop, so.
And Daniel, I mean, there's plenty of good hits. I was going to say there's plenty of good hits here, and there is one. Wrenn and Six. Get cast.
That is a pretty good one.
Yeah. No land to pick up, I don't think, but...
Yeah, no fetch land.
I don't think Daniel's going to mind just getting this Wrenn and Six for free here, and it's just going to take a shot. So Noah is going to drop to 5. That feels like it didn't take very long.
No, this is turn 3. We only attacked a couple times, but Noah did, shock a little bit. So
yeah. All right, and the explosives did come in, and it does hit the board here for 0. So that will prevent creativity on this clue.
Yeah, this is a rough one for Noah. We need a lot to get out of this. So
Yeah.
creativity, we have the explosives, like you said. We can just pop the 2 treasures. I believe Daniel still has a counter spell left over too,
Hmm.
and then Noah didn't have a play on turn 2, so we know he doesn't really have an opportunity to double spell here. His hand's probably just all clogged up with 3s and creativity. So
Okay. Ragavan comes across. Land is fetched in response. No dropping to at most 4. Oh, and a token being created now. Explosives.
ooh, okay. I'm gonna go for the heat, which makes
Okay.
sense. We want to save the explosives to blow up the clue
Hmm.
token in case we have creativity, so I like that play.
Sure.
So now it's
Well,
gonna fall to 2.
Daniel's burn spells have had fairly unimpressive targets this game, but it is working out.
Right, they've looked pretty good.
And now we have a bolt on the way back. What's going on here? So Noah being at 4. I mean, Daniel certainly would be tempted to try and finish the game, but spending your counter magic to defend your threats instead of to stop Noah's combo is kind of nerve-wracking.
Right, so lots going on here. We got a bolt on Ragavan, counterspell, and then spell pierce.
Mhm.
Now, Daniel does have 2 treasures, so we can pay for that. However, if we pay, then we're going to be shields down on explosives. So we decide not to pay, and I kind of like that because you want to make sure you can hold up the explosives for the clue token.
Mhm. I mean, you still have the win on the board. It's just, like 4 turns away now with this Wrenn and Six.
Right.
But yeah, leaving the tokens on the board. So there would have. Oh, wow. Okay, here we go. Creativity. I mean, this is what the
There
explosives are
is
here for, right?
there is 2 treasures, right? I'm not
Yeah,
missing that. Okay, yeah.
I
Oh.
think so. Yeah, there is.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna
Uh,
pop that. I
if
guess just forcing the action.
yeah, there it goes. I was about to ask if we could have the table spotter get the players to use larger dice, but this is a time walk match, so that's not going to happen. Wrenn and Six
And
goes up
the
to 2, and that
Wrens, is the
is
Wren
it.
going down or up?
That turn it went
It's
up.
down. Okay.
It's at 2 right now.
We get a Wren of our own, which is now that's nice for Noah because Noah can go fetch land, and then the fetch land turns into a Dwarven Mine. We're gonna ping. Okay. So we already had a fetch land.
And yeah, we're gonna play a fetch land. So Noah fetches. A bolt is lethal. In fact, a bolt is lethal anyway because of Wrenn and Six. So maybe Noah correctly realizes that the fetch land damage doesn't matter.
Right. And then what else do we got? Yeah, Daniel's looking for, I mean, just, like you said, a bolt, a Murktide,
Mm-hmm.
anything to try and get this game over with. Looks like we got some counter spells.
Daniel's trying to decide if he should Wrenn and Six Noah for a point. If he does, then Noah's Wrenn and Six can kill. Well, Noah owns both Wrenn and Sixes, but it can kill the one that Daniel controls right now.
Right.
Instead, Bolt's going to finish it off and pick
So
up
we
another
go after
fetch
the
land.
Wren.
Hmm.
Daniel just looking for something to close out the game here. And now Noah's at 4, so the Bolt doesn't do it because we didn't ping with the Wren. So Bolt doesn't quite do it for Daniel. That's basically Ancestral Recall, right?
Yeah. I mean, so far, these things are drawing fire from Daniel plus, creating clues. This is a good deal. Yeah, this card is aggressively crappy or value. I don't know. I don't even know what adjectives to use here, but it does actually get countered. Oh, this is nice. Shredder and then explosives to trigger connive.
Oof. Yep, that'll try and find some gas here. Looks like we're trying to see what we got here for Daniel. Looks like we discarded a spell. Discarding a Ragavan, which I guess makes sense because there's the 2 fetch lands in play, so you know that those are 3 fetch lands now. So those all represent Dwarven Mines, so.
Mhm. All right, so Legislature swings in for 2 here, and this is half of Noah's life total.
See if we can find
Explosives.
anything.
Yeah, this is gonna okay,
Explore.
sure.
But yeah, with the
All
counter
right.
spells. Yeah. All right. That'll wrap it up.
Okay, so this match is gonna be tied up, and that was the time shifted match. We are now jump back into real time and pick up game 3 where they're actually at. So you're gonna miss a few turns, but we're gonna go back to live action. Let's go ahead and go down to the table as soon as we're ready.
We're basically time travelers.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, okay, that's fitting. I actually watched the Back to the Future documentary a couple weeks ago and super enjoyed it. So yeah, this now I'm living the dream. So let's go right to the present day. Anytime. There we go. All right. So
Whoa, I see a lot of dice. This is
there
big
are
creatures.
and they're large dice, and we can read them. And there's a lot of stuff going on. And Noah's at 2. Okay. And we see explosives in play again. 2 lethal flyers.
Okay. Have to imagine we have a counter spell for Daniel. Let's see.
Well, we don't even.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe time has been called, right?
Okay, yes.
So we are currently in turns.
All right. Time has been called in the round. I'm not sure it's been called for this match. They might have extra because they are a feature match. That is a pretty common thing. All right, so here's explosives, cleaning the board. Noah probably figured that might happen. As you can see, that was a minimum cost creativity, and then there is actually a follow-up. This would be something else. If this is going to be hard evidence, another creativity, it is, and there's another counter. Oh no!
Oh boy, that was crazy. Crazy.
Okay, well, that was I'm glad we made it back in time for that final turn. That was a noble attempt by Noah Huizinga, but comes up just short of the double creativity in the single turn for 1 apiece.